welcome to Science Spectrum. This is the 5th part of the first lectures, and that's a continuation to the types of ratios where we stopped. Alright, so we'll continue from here. The third type of ratio is a ratio of equalities. We talked about the first, the second. Now, we could have duplicate ratios. Duplicate ratios. That's another type of ratio. So if I have ratio A to B, the duplicates would be, I would replicate this, and of course I'll replicate this. Now we could have subduplicate ratio, subduplicate ratios. So this implies I will take the square root of this. So if I have a ratio A to B, the subduplicate now of this would be given as is the square root of A to the square root of B. Alright, and we could have triplicate ratios. Continuation from on the types of ratio, we could have triplicate, subtriplicates. We could have inverse ratios. We could have compound ratios, and of course, so we could have triplicate ratio, triplicate ratios. So given ratio A to B, the triplicate will be given as, just take the cube of this, of course, and we could have subtriplicates, triplicate ratios. So triplicate ratios. This implies just taking the cube root of this. So this is the cube root of this, and of course the cube root of this. So this is triplicate. And of course we will have inverse ratios. Inverse ratios. Given ratio A to B, its inverse is given as is, of course, just invert this, that is ratio B to A. Of course, and of course we could have compound ratios. Compound ratios of two ratios. Compound ratio of two ratios. Compound ratios of two ratios. So this implies if I give you a pair, two pairs of ratio, let's say for instance ratio A to B, and I give you another ratio C to D, could write this as A and of course as C over D. So the compound ratio of these ratios will be written as ratio AC to BD. And of course these are the types of ratios. Now we'll switch to proportions. So that is the next phase of this lecture after ratio. Now, what is proportion? Proportion is simply the equality of two ratios. That's proportion. Proportions, just the equality of two ratios. The equality, it is the equality. Proportion is the equality of two ratios. That is proportion. So I give an instance, given ratio A to B, another ratio C to D. If this were to be proportion, of course, I would stick in an equal to sign here. If I have terms A, B, C, D, and of course they are in proportion. If these are in proportion, the first and the last term, we call that the extreme. So A and B are called the extremes, and of course B and D, that's A and D, the first and the last. A and D are the extremes, then the middle, B and C, call them the means. And it may interest you to know that the product of the extremes is the same as the product of the mean. So these are a few things we need to know on proportion. So the product product of extremes is the same as product of means. That is, if they are in proportion. So I give a few examples. Now let's check if I have 8, 10, 12. Alright, so what is the fourth proportion here? So given 8, 10, 12, given, find the fourth proportion. Find the fourth proportion. Find the fourth proportion. Alright, so let's proceed. The solution to this, alright, so this will be ratio 8 to 10 has to be equal because proportion is the equality of two ratios, so this will be equal to ratio 12 to the fourth one, which you don't know, that is x. So this becomes this is 12 over x. And of course we are looking for the proportion, so we easily, of course, 2 in 8 is 4, 2 in 12 is 6, 2 in 4 is a 2, 2 in 10 is 5, 2 in 2, 1, 2 in 6 is 3. So I'm left with 1/5 is equals to 3 over x. So we cross multiply, x times 1 is x, and of course the fourth proportion has to be 3 times 5, which is 15. Alright, now we'll do other examples in proportion. We'll do more examples in proportion. Alright, so given 6, 7, 12, and 14. Just verify if they are in proportion. Verify if they are in proportion. In other words, verify if we make this a pair of ratio and this a pair of ratio. Let's see if they are equal. So clearly we see 6 to 7 and of course ratio 12 to 14. Alright, straight to the point. We'll just compare it and tell what the answer is. What the answer will be. This is 6, so this is 12, 14. But of course I could easily reduce this. I could reduce this to 2 in this is 6, 2 in this is 7. And of course, right in our own very eyes, clearly we see that this is proportional because the two ratios are the same. You could check that out. This and this will give you the same time. Alright, and we may need to do one more example. Given, this is example 1, example 2, and of course the third example would be given ratio A to B is the same as ratio 4 to 5, and of course if we have, let's evaluate 5a minus b over 10a plus 3b. Let's evaluate this. Let's find the numerical value to this given this proportion. Alright, so it's a straightforward question. Solution. The solution to this is pretty much straightforward. Alright, let's just a minute to. Alright, so solution to example 3. I could write as ratio A to B, the same as 4 to 5. So in this case, I want to make A the subject of the formula. Reason being that B appeared both at the top and at the bottom, but A appeared at the top. So it means I could eliminate A. Alright, so you will cross multiply. We'll see I have 5A equals to 4B. And of course, if I divide both sides by 5, we'll see right in our own very eyes that A is 4B over 5. And of course, I could stick in 4B over 5 for A in that expression we have there. So we have 5A minus B over 10 plus 3B. This becomes 5 into brackets 4B over 5 minus B over 1, all divided by 10 plus 3B. Now you can see all of these terms now, both at the top and at the bottom, they are all in terms of B. And of course, I could delete the 5. Then I'm left with 4B minus B. So I'm left with a 4B minus B. which becomes a 3b, 4b minus b, this is 4b minus b, 4b minus b over 10 plus 3b. So this becomes 3b over 10 plus 3b. And of course I could write this as, let's see, okay, if that's the case, I will need to eliminate the b also, but clearly I could see right in my own very eyes that b is just a 5. b is just a 5. So it simply means I'll replace 5 for b here. So this becomes 3 times 5, which is b. This a is 4, b is 5. Over 10 plus 3 and 5. This is 15. 10 plus 15. This is 15 over this is 25. And of course I can divide through by a common factor. 5 in 15 is 3. 5 here is 5. So the actual value of this, given this proportion, is 3/5. Alright, thank you for tuning. You may want to like, share, and subscribe to this channel for more content. Thank you.